There we go. All kinds of wonderful people.
Greetings, David.
Hey,
So
Nirmala, how
nice
are
to
you?
see all of you.
Wonderful. All right.
Hello.
See all these people here. Some disguised as black screens with white lighting. All right. Well, we only have about an hour, so I want to just dive in, and I'll do my best to keep nabbing people as they're dropping in. But um, we have a series of four of these sessions leading up to the launch of our new community. The last week we had a wonderful conversation with Carrie Sackett about groups, and the different kinds of groups that will be in our community, as well as a new sort of group process that we're going to be developing over the course of the year. Um, and this one is about a different, whole other end of the spectrum, which is about how to use AI to help ourselves get better at what we do. So one of the sort of central themes of my new book, which will be out in a couple of months, is that I would like for us as coaches to think more like elite athletes or musicians who have a very strong protocol about how one gets better at something. I think coaches, my experience of coaches, and I'm no different in some ways, have a great propensity for consuming lots of cool things, lots of programs, lots of certificates, lots of books, which makes us very informed, but maybe not always quite as good as we could be at what we actually do. And so, one of the things that really intrigued me a few years ago was beginning to think, how do we help change that? And so, about 3 years ago, I got involved with a startup, which is now what they technically call a scale up, because they have big clients now, called Ovida. And I used what some of you have learned from me to help them build a platform which allows people to practice. And as AI has evolved, so have they. And it comes at a really good time because we're going to make a skills lab on the Ovida platform, both a part of the narrative coaching experience for this year, but also make the same experience available to all of our graduates. Um, and so I want to just talk to you before we show you anything about kind of how how the platform is put together, kind of why I think it's so important, and then we'll kind of dive in and see what it looks like. So in essence, what we found in the past, when we in the very early days with Ovida, and even before that, before we even had this platform, that a lot of us, even though we're quite good at doing wonderful things for other people, we're not maybe as knowledgeable as we could be about how do we actually help people uh, grow or get better or change. We have this sense that if I just do my coaching well, that things will magically happen. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And what we found is that, and we saw this again and again in our pilots with the platform, with a lot of the coaching schools, is that in the end of the day, technically speaking, a lot of coaches maybe are not as good at giving feedback, and but they're particularly not as good at knowing what to do with feedback they receive. Like, how do I actually take what somebody else tells me about my practice and help myself get better? And so, when we've demonstrated the platform in recent last couple of months to a couple of very well-known coaching schools, they both said this already gives better feedback than we do. And it certainly creates better structures for behavior change than we do. And so, just as a last piece of context, I believe that in the very short time, that entry-level coaching, the basics of coaching will be actually better handled by AI than it will be by us, certainly at scale. Um, because, and what's the exciting opportunity for us is I think it will allow us to spend more time on the things we actually love the most, which is the deeper engagements with our clients. Uh, so what I'm going to show you is sort of two stages of the platform. The first phase is sort of a more advanced version of what it's been all along. And then I'm going to switch you over to the really cool part, which is explicitly around narrative coaching. So the first thing I'll show you is more kind of it would be sort of like an advanced ChatGPT function where you basically go into the platform and you record yourself doing a coaching demonstration or a skill practice demonstration. And the AI gives you some pretty solid but fairly rudimentary feedback. And then there's spaces in there for a mentor, for your peer, for anybody to comment and have dialogues about what you did. What's the second half is, which is the part that I find the most exciting, is came along 6 to 9 months ago when the whole notion of agentic AI became a reality. And so, because narrative coaching is a very specific and well documented and researched body of work, they actually use narrative coaching as a prototype for how to do this for everybody. So we were the first people in the world to have what I will show you. And it basically allows you to bypass, for the most part, generic LLMs, large language models, to pretty much only harvest things I've said or written in the past. So in essence, you're getting as close as you can get to real-time engagement as if you were talking with me, or I was talking to you, or I was giving you feedback. Um, when we've done sort of blind, some not totally scientific yet, but small case blind studies, most people can't tell the difference most of the time between what it's telling you and what I might tell you if I was sitting right next to you. And so what this does, and the last thing I'll say, one of the things I found most exciting about all this is, it's something I've said if you've been in my ID program, that one of the reasons why in training programs or in coaching engagements, people don't sustain change as much as we would like is because they've got no safe place to practice.
Mm.
They're not going to do it at work. There's too much at risk. Some may not even feel comfortable doing it at home or wherever. They might have a friend or a colleague they do this with, and or they most likely just get busy and kind of forget. The beauty of this platform is you can use this now. You couldn't before, but now you can use this completely by yourself. So let's imagine you come out of a session, you think, I didn't do that very well. I needed to be more assertive with the client. I kind of bent over. I didn't really stand up, or I didn't really push hard enough on what I thought was the most important point. I'd really like to understand why that was. Well, you can go into the platform and practice saying the same sentence like 10 times, just like an athlete would, trying out different things from the absurd to the tiny, just like, how do I find the voice and what happens to me when I try to talk in this new way? Um, and it will give you feedback. If you're like totally flummoxed, like, how do I even do this? You can actually ask it to demonstrate back to you and model for you what this might sound like. And in the course of the dialogue, there's like a sort of a dial in terms of the caliber of feedback you want it to give you about how you've done to it. We don't call it quite this, but it's basically goes from you're a loving grandmother to brutal. And ironically, most people choose brutal because it's not mean, it's not angry, it's just very blunt. It's like a German best friend, right? I'm looking at Tina as I say that. Um, and it just says exactly what it wants to say. And it's very concrete, it's very specific, but it cares about you. It wants you to really understand what it is. And so the feedback you get is unlike anything you probably have ever received in your professional career. And we find it game changing for people to then go, oh, now I realize what I'm not doing or what I am doing. And now I can go back and try it again. And then you can get to a certain point in private. Do you say, I think I've kind of got this. I want to go try it out with somebody in the real world. And so you can kind of go do that. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and then we're going to take a guided tour of the platform itself. But I want to see if there's any questions or thoughts that are coming up for you thus far.
I just wanted to share, hello everyone,
Hey,
um,
Amy.
that what you're describing makes me think of last week's pop-up with Carrie
Mhm.
and talking about creating spaces where we can babble our way to
Yeah,
better competency, that
yeah.
this is like the ultimate safe space to babble.
Hmm.
And even though you're by yourself, you're not in solitude.
Yes. And so for those of you who don't weren't there last week, so great, that's a great connection, Amy. So um, Carrie has worked a lot with two of the sort of seminal figures in the world of Lev Vygotsky, who we use a lot in our work as well. So we share that passion. And we talk a lot about how there's intermediate phase to learn anything. And the easiest example would be a child learning how to talk. They don't go from not talking to talking. There's a whole bunch of babbling in the middle, which we can support or not. And one of the things that groups can do, in this case, the practice platform can do, is like you were saying, it gives you a chance to try out things, to do the kind of things we would do with a narrative coaching client, giving opportunities to experience themselves in new ways and experiment with new ways of standing, talking, gesturing, whatever they need to do. And so this is a great way for us to build in one of the core things we're going to build across our membership, which is do more things to scaffold the behaviors you need to deliver on what you're learning. Jeff.
Is there any intention to add other tools to this practice in a safe space context? Or will it be just a narrative coaching modality?
So there's a couple of ways to answer that. So at one level, we're going to keep it focused on narrative coaching for right now, just while we get the community up to speed and ourselves up to speed. And that's our strong suit around this because we have an agent built for narrative coaching. So we'll be able to deliver more value, learn quicker. So in the beginning, it's primarily only for narrative coaching graduates and students. Having said that, you can go in and practice whatever you want. It's not going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff, you can't do that because that's not narrative coaching." And if it does, you should be afraid because then we're in trouble. But uh,
Sorry.
yeah, so you can practice whatever you would like. And then beyond that, there's sort of three sort of level or three domains in the community that we're building. One is about developing yourself. So all of our guiding lights and narrative release stuff is going to be in there. One's about developing your skills, which is our programs and this skills lab. And then one is creating new services, which is where some of the design student and ID work comes in. So as we kind of really get this foundation set through narrative coaching over this first year, I'm guessing it's probably not realistically going to be till next year, although it might come sooner. Uh, right now, you could technically practice anything you want on the platform and just not avail yourself of the narrative coaching skills. But we want to go further than that and create new agents next year for the other bodies of work.
So you don't have the ability to create your own agent. I don't- because I think we all bring different orientations to our coaching practice, or I would like to
Yes.
think, at this level as opposed to beginner level. And I can see this whole principle of being able to clients and coaches and whatever label you want to put on oneself, the
Yeah.
opportunity to go through an iterative process and not bore the teeth out of your friends and colleagues,
Yes.
is a gift to all
Yeah.
of humankind.
I think so too. Um, yeah, and like I said, we will look at building new agents next year, and who knows where the technology will go. Maybe there'll be in 2 years' time the ability to for you to create your own. Who knows?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No worries. Ron, see your hand
Just a
waving.
quick
Then we'll go to
question.
you.
Are you planning to include eventually anything from Chris Hoff and the Luminous kind of all of his teachings, which are kind of like
And see what
coaching, but off to the side in some way?
So I know Chris. Chris is actually a narrative coaching graduate from back in the day.
Mhm.
We've been in some correspondence. I think he's even more introverted than I am, so it's kind of hard to,
Yeah.
but um, yeah. And so I've gently sort of broached because I really have great respect for what he writes and how he thinks, and he's has some really cool new like Substack posts and stuff out that I'm really appreciating.
Mhm.
So if we, so he could go directly to Avita and do this himself. If this really goes well and people want more of this, we may look at adding some other agents outside of mine to this.
Okay.
But that's early days. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Tina.
I have a very German friend question.
Oh, excellent.
Is it fully GDPR compliant and can one opt out of training data?
Yes. So everything within Ovida has been built with that in mind.
Mhm.
And so the data doesn't live anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere, it's only yours. You're the only person that ever has access to it. And so just to give you an example, so they've done projects for like the US military, for high-level financial services firms, where like, for example, as part of their even getting considered as a outside vendor, they have to endure 3 to 4 days of 24/7 cyber attacks on their system. So they have a bulletproof system, near as we can
Mhm.
tell. And they've
But it's
passed.
on US servers.
What's that?
But it is on US
I don't think
servers,
so.
no?
I think because I don't think it's only on US based
Mhm.
servers.
Okay, check
Um,
that out.
because some of the companies they've worked with are actually based in Europe. So
Okay.
unless they're offshoring their things back to the US, which I would doubt, then yes, and a number of these bigger players have been global companies have must use systems all over the world. So
Okay.
yeah. Uh, Martin, and then we'll come
Yeah,
back to Jeff.
just a little bit more on Tina's point. I've used Ovida for investigations of health authorities in Canada, and under the Patriot Act, it is specifically illegal for us to store data on servers in the US.
Okay.
And so we went through a whole privacy process, and Ovida assured that, and it was
Yeah.
approved by the health authority. So it's very tight.
Yes. Thank you, Martin. Yeah, I've been impressed. I mean, it's staggering what you have to go through these days. So I was impressed. Jeff.
Yeah, so for us non-Europeans, am I understanding that you basically have a privacy fence built around anything and everything you do so that not only the content is kept discreet, but or not discreet, but it's also not used as a learning tool
Correct.
for the product? I would honestly, you got three people already now asking the question. It's something you might want to have addressed up front in your disclosures on the privacy front, because I think that's one area that we're all concerned about,
Sure.
AI losing control of it,
Sure.
of your content, your privacy.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Oh, I'll pass it on to Brian. Okay. So unless there's anything else that's really urgent, I'd like to move on and show you kind of what's happening. So let me just share my screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm not doing that. Let me get this up full screen. This is what the sort of generic piece looks like for us. Y'all can see it okay? All right. Yeah. Trying to figure out why it's not doing full screen. But anyways, Zoom's so funny. Anyways, so this was a conversation, and as Mara fared much better than I did in terms of the freeze frame photo. So she wins the prize here. I get oh my God, what's happened prize. But this was a coaching conversation between Tamara and I. And so this is just sort of the basic orientation. This is where it all began. I just want to show you this, just kind of see this is sort of the starting point. So Just a couple of things. So you notice, like in the video sort of portion there, this is an actual recording of our conversation. You can, if I hit play, it'll play. I'm not going to do that right now, just because I want to be able to explain this to you. Everything is transcribed on the right-hand column and time-stamped. So if I find something, oh, that looks really interesting over there, and I click on it, it'll take me to that part of the video. One of the things that, so I was there, one of the very first sort of advisors, I was their first investor, frankly. And part of what I think when they will say, I saw what they had, I think, before they did. And one of the reasons why I was attracted to work with them is because they don't just sort of do what everybody else is doing, which is sort of throw something together. They do something really, really diligently. So, for example, near as we can tell, I think it's still true, they have the most accurate transcripts in the world because they created their transcripts. They created the process of which transcripts are formed in a very unique way, which means that because there's so much about coaching that has so much to do with language and nuance with language. And so many, even of the big providers like Otter and stuff, I just find they sort of, they brag about, 97, 90% accuracy. Well, for me, that's not good enough because so much hinges on specifics of words sometimes. And so I was really struck by their dedication to try to get this right. So what you'll do is then then Mara and I can, if we wanted to debrief our call, we can do that online and we can make comments and I'll show you how. And or we could, so let's say, imagine I was Mara's supervisor and we did this demonstration and then I want to come in and give her some more feedback live and have some discussion. So we could pull up the screen and doing what I'm doing right now, and we could have a conversation and move in and out of the screen. So if I just go back over here, so this is where it all began. They have much prettier graphics now. So another thing that I admire about them is that they only measure things that are significantly accurate in terms of your ability to predict it. So, like for example, they don't do facial recognition, they don't do tone of voice, things that you can do sometimes now, but it's so difficult because of culture and gender and personality, etc. They only do things that are easy to measure. So these are things like that give you some basic sort of dashboard of how did I do in this conversation? And so for example, share of voice. So the share of voice was only 17%, which is fabulous for a coach. In some of the early demos that Alex, who's the other co-founder, did, he would have like 80% share of voice because he likes to talk, right? So if I were his mentor, I might say, Alex, we might want to work on that. Maybe you have a tendency to talk a lot and you don't ask enough questions, or maybe your questions don't tend to be open enough. You're just asking very specific, pointed questions. Maybe you interrupt too much. So there was a 23% interruption rate. And it will show you both by the host, which is only 9%, which is not bad, and the guest interrupt at a higher rate, which often means that they weren't feeling heard. The beauty of this is there's no judgment in any of this. It's just data. And so there's some portions of conversations where you have to do different things. It may not even sound like coaching, but it gives you kind of a head start. And then we have a little bit of a summary of kind of this is all from the AI, of kind of its sense of kind of how you did and how it went. And in this case, Mara was coaching me, so I was talking a little bit about my long journey with long COVID and my big move. And so it's just kind of a nice summary. Again, it seems pretty accurate the way I've experienced it. It will, as a lot of these things do now, it'll give you some actions to take away from the meeting. This is a really interesting one. So you see these blips here. So they distinguish between when I was talking and when Mara was talking, and it will actually go in and point to key moments. In this particular brief conversation, because it was more conversational and less coaching-like, we only had kind of one key moment. And this is a great way to if you're like maybe doing this with a mentee or you're doing this with a colleague, and you want to say, where do we begin? It will identify for you moments, and it'll even point it out in the video, it'll even point it out in the chat, in the transcript, where there's something significant happened. Often it's because of what the client said. And then if you only want to do this, you can do that. You'll miss most of the fun, but you can do that. You can give feedback. So a third party could come in and give feedback if you've given them access. Um, Either of you can give feedback, and then you also can, if you're, in my case, me, I could go in and make some notes to myself based on the conversation. Um, so again, and you can make all kinds of choices about types of moments you want to track. Like maybe you end up being too declarative when you coach. Say, hey, I want to really track my use of absolute language, and then all of a sudden you got a whole bunch of those. You think, maybe this is a bit too high. And it will show you all 31 examples of when you used declarative absolute language. And so even at this rudimentary level, you can start to have it help notice you doing coaching and giving you some starting points kind of about just around the basic parameters of coaching. I find this particularly helpful for people that are transitioning from coaching to from something else to coaching. We're trying to get the handle of what is coaching and how is it different than what I was doing before. Okay, so I'm just going to stop there and see if there's any sort of thoughts or questions about this, and then we'll get to the really good stuff.
Good morning, David. Thank you for going through this so far.
Yes, Tracy.
Yeah, just a quick question. So, and this is just kind of using the platform. So to do this, you are recording your session from the platform, or
Yes.
are you, okay. And if you have clients where you provide summaries of transcripts, if, it's for some of my clients, I use AI to
Mm.
help them generate a summary, but it doesn't have this level of detail, obviously. Can you still do that here?
Yeah, so you can, so and you'll see this on the next screen, but um, everything that's here, you go into the platform and you book a meeting. So whoever you're going to book a meeting with has to be invited to the platform. So if you're going to be in the skills lab and we're going to have kind of mentored peer groups along the way especially in the beginning with the lab. Everybody that's paid to participate in this will register as on the platform, and then you can book meetings with each other whenever you want. If you are going to use this with a client, then through this uh, um, through this mechanism, it's difficult because they would have to become members of the MI community and then come over to you. So I'll have to ask Brian if there's an easier way to do that, but so far I don't think there is. But you can also sign up at almost no cost to have your own private account if you like using Ovida, and then you can use it with all your clients. And we have a lot of people, particularly if they're, like, for example, they're trying to, maybe they've got a contract to work with a team or a group of people at a company or organization, and you want to kind of compare notes, like what are these people working on? And maybe there's some patterns here, or maybe they're kind of bumping up against the same problem. And so being able to have recordings of them all in the same place will be very helpful to you to kind of notice the bigger picture. But I will confirm with Brian, and I'll post in the forum for us all. Kind of are there ways in this current setting to invite in clients? I'm pretty sure the answer is no, but I'll ask anyways. And I think Jeff had another question. Oh, Tina.
Yeah, actually the same question as Jeff. Does it also speak other languages than English?
It does not yet.
Okay.
I know that they're working on that, but I will ask Brian kind of where they are with that.
Okay. And I really like that it speaks of host and guest, because
Yes.
guests don't need any fixing. That's a very partnership-like wording. Nice.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Anything else about this so far? Okay. So now I'm going to go back. So this has all this, for example, has all of my sessions here, all of my meetings. And so again, it's great if you like maybe so Cassandra was a client, and so at one point, and she said, may bring me up and say, I want to have some more sessions with you. We can actually pick up what we did before, so I've still got records of that. I don't myself, but it's in the system. And then you can create a team, like maybe your group's doing something. But I want to just go up here to these are all just actual meetings. And this is the sort of new piece. So what Brian and I did was we broke narrative coaching down into 12 sort of macro skills. And then within each macro skill, we identified sort of sub skills, if you will. And so you can, and so it's been trained on all of these skills. And I put in all the elements that go into to be able to deliver on this skill. And so if you say, I want to work on I want to ask questions from a narrative perspective. I want to learn more about that. I want to practice that more. And so you would then go into this skill area. And here's an example of what we did. And so, and then I'll go back and show you kind of another way into this if you want to start from scratch. So, on the left, you're seeing a dialogue between Brian and I, kind of talking about this particular piece, and there's both feedback from Brian, but there's also feedback from the AI in this about this conversation that I had with Amara. And in this case, we're kind of in that sort of dialogues process between Brian and I. He's sort of reviewing this with me. If I could invite Mara into this as well, and we would have a similar piece. And this is a way for us to begin to really hone in on practicing one of the skills. And then this sort of has a continuous piece here. And again, it's giving me sort of some feedback on, giving actually Mara some feedback on her use of some of the sub skills within narrative inquiry. It's giving her examples of this. It will actually rate her on each, if it's later in the, please score my performance. So it will give Mara sort of a rating on each of these sub skills. And it uses Dreyfus's, and the Dreyfus is sort of 5 or 6 level between novice and master. And then you can say, hey, I didn't do very well at this one. I've kind of struggled with this for a while. I'd like to practice this sub skill more. And it'll say, great. And then I'll show you the screen it takes you to. But again, I want to just do this in pieces so we don't get ahead of anybody. Where's Linda?
I had just a quick question. You were talking
Sure.
about these, and I seen you again.
You too.
You were talking about the skills, and I know that with narrative coaching, we have so many skills, particular tools
Yes.
that we have. Are those on the platform too? Like if I wanted to go to, round the tree,
Yeah.
one of those tools,
Yeah.
and I needed either a demo or something. Is that also on the platform?
So not all of them, but many of them. So like the rewind process is here, and there's a number of those tools that are here. They're things you can practice. We don't have, well, let me back up. We don't have recorded examples,
Okay.
but, and now I'll show you on the next screen. So when you're just to kind of share this before we show this for all you auditory learners, let's just say, I get stuck. Maybe you've observed yourself, got some feedback, and what you found was that you kind of latched onto the first thing that seemed important from the client, and you just went with it, as opposed to sitting back and pausing, right?
Mm-hmm.
and you'd say, I think I just get too excited or too anxious or too whatever, and I jump in too quickly. I'd like to get better at that. And so you could choose one of the skills that would help you do that, or you could just put out the generic request. And so it will kind of say, well, here's some choices of things you could practice about that. Which of these would you like to practice? And you say, well, I realize that after the fact that I start hyperventilating or I get nervous and so I get a little bit, and I'd like to be able to, this is my favorite example. I'd like to be able to just slow down my breathing and be more patient with the coaching process. Great. So then it will ask you which of the two roles you would like it to play. Would you like me? It's going to ask you, would you like me as the AI to be a client so you can practice yourself? Or would you like to be where I'm the coach and I'm modeling this for you?
Mm, okay.
And so depending on kind of how you prefer to learn or kind of where you're at with that particular skill, it will be whatever you need it to be.
Okay. I have a second question. You said it keeps track of all of your meetings. Do
Yes.
we have a cap? Like in Zoom, if you go over a particular amount, you have to pay extra for the
Yeah.
cap, to expand the cap.
Um, so no, yes and no. Formally no, informally yes. So we at MI get charged for every session you do.
Right.
So we have no idea how many sessions you all are going to do. So we're going to guesstimate based on past experience how many sessions most students are likely to do and sort of price it accordingly. After the first 3 months, we'll know. Did we lose our shirts? Did we make too much profit? And we'll adjust the pricing. So
Okay.
so my invitation to you is practice in a way that's meaningful for you. Like don't obsess and like practice everything because you're never going to actually act on most of that. So make sure it's doable for you, but also don't worry about it. And so we feel like, so much of what we can't do in the normal program is give you enough support for practicing. And so for me, I think most of you will progress in your narrative coaching as fast in this as you did in the whole program put together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let me just go back over here. See what was in the chat box. Oh, no. No, it does not. Yeah. All right. And so we've got some of the ones we've played with before, and then we've got the kind of overall templates for all of the skills. I wanted to show you, where is this over here, I think. This one. Let's see. Oh yeah. This was Brian and I sort of talking again about, so this would be an example of, so Brian's not a coach. He's a MBA graduate, former engineer, former everything, but he's not a coach. And he confesses, I'm not a coach. But so he's very brave. He volunteered to actually do this. So then this is an example of the system will both give him some examples, but rate him on these sort of basics of narrative coaching. So as you see, many of these, he was a novice or emerging, because again, that's not really what he does for a living. But then he could go in here and just say, okay, well, this one I seem to do pretty well. There's even an example of me doing pretty well. I'd like to understand more about why I did that one well and the others not so much. I'd like to go in and look at where that showed up. I'd click on this example. I don't have access to this demo, but now anymore for some reason. So, but if I did, I could click here and go to the spot of the demo, and I could sort of get some sense of why I might have done that well. Let me go back and find one where, if I just go do this one again, I'll do this one. So if I just move the screen up, so let's imagine that I want to just do a role play. So then you have choices here about what do you want to do? You can watch the AI demonstrate something for you. So again, going back to the earlier question, so we don't, to Rosalind, we don't have recordings, but it will show you what, if it were me, what I might do to model this particular behavior. You can now do this talking, which is only like 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old. Before you had to type everything. Now you can talk, and it'll talk back to you. And then I like this one. Brian had a lot of fun with this. You can ask it what kind of coach would you like it to be, or what kind of client would you like it to be, and so again, it gives you a chance to kind of play with different scenarios. And then here you have a whole bunch of choices. So let's just make maybe a client's. So it will give you a scenario and sort of give you some prompts about what the purpose of this conversation is, and then you can actually start the conversation. And so it's trying to start. It's going to take a minute. My internet's always super fast.
Hi, David. Good to see you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, thank you. I mean, it's not recognizing my microphone, so let me try this again. I'm doing fine. Yeah. I have this fancy setup with my microphone, and sometimes the platforms get confused. Let me try another microphone here. Hello? Well, anyways, for some reason that's not working. But anyways, if it was, I could have this dialogue with it, and I'll have to figure out with Brian why that's not working. But I could be in conversation with it to be able to work on this particular issue. And again, I can play either the coach for Abigail, or I could have the AI be the coach for Abigail, and I watch what it does. And so if this were working, it's the joy of technology. You don't know until you get there, because this was working half an hour ago. But then you could engage it in a conversation to allow yourself to be able to engage with the platform.
And you can give it the prompt to use a particular tool.
Exactly. And so whatever it has in its system, you can ask it to use. And so again, if you go back to the complete menu, you can see all the things that are in here. Yeah. Oops. Open. All right. Okay. So again, this is just a way for you to have an ongoing sort of dialogue with it. Like I said, you can have it play different roles. You can, if you say, I want to practice this, but a great example of when I didn't do this very well was this particular meeting I had. So you can, at the bottom of the screen, you can see where it says add meeting, and it will go to your list of meetings. And then you can, and maybe like in hindsight, you think, oh, I think now that I'm practicing this more, I could see that I could have done this differently. And so you can pull back up the video, and it will give you feedback on your attempts to respond differently this time to the video as compared to the first time that you did this. But what I like about this is that it allows you to play whatever role would help you learn best. Some people learn best by watching somebody demonstrate. So then you have the agent do this for you and show you. Some people prefer to try things on their own and then get feedback. You can actually go in here, I think it's still available, where you can actually watch complete versions of all this, so you can play both sides. And as we kind of move through this first, there'll be each of the blocks within the community will be 3 months. So you'll have a chance to either in the narrative coaching program, you'll have this for 9 months. If you're a graduate, you'd have a chance to sign up for 3 months. And at the end of 3 months, we'll both do our own review, and we'll also send a survey to you about what you would like from this that you didn't find the first time around. And the good news is that we can make adjustments pretty quickly. Or if there's something like along the way that's not working, we'll have a dedicated service person at Ovida who will help us. You'll get their email address as part of the setup so that you can write if you've got a technical issue. And then like I said, we'll have a couple of sort of mentored sessions if you want to come in and compare notes and get some more help. Not so much on Avita, but on kind of what you're learning and how to learn it better or faster. And we'll get some feedback there as well from the mentors about themes or issues they're picking up on. So anything else for right now that's coming up for you? Yeah, these are just more demos. Yep.
How
Okay.
easy is signing up, David?
What's that?
How easy is it to sign up? Is this the old sign up? Do we have to sign up new?
Yeah, so what will happen, we're building it at the moment, so it'll be ready in about 3 weeks,
Oh, okay.
towards the end of February.
Okay.
And we'll send a sort of a series of
Link.
emails about how to do that, Brenda. So the way we talked about this a little bit last week, but the way this will be set up is that you can, because some of you were here last week. The basic gist of this is we're setting up the community where you pay a small monthly fee, and that'll give you access to all of the basic materials from anything we've taught before. So you'll have access to everything. You'll have access to a lot of different options for groups, some additional resources, etc., additional opportunities. And right now, if you want to have access to the lab, if you're a student signing up for narrative coaching for the first time, or if you're signing up for the whole program a second time, which many people have done, this would be included in the fee for the program. If you would like to come back as a graduate, you can sign up. This will be like an extra on top of your membership because it costs us extra money, and both in time and actual hard costs. So you'll pay a small extra fee, which you can sort of order off the menu, if you will, when you register for the community. And the membership like I said, purchasing things like access to the lab are in 3-month increments. So you're only committed for 3 months, and so you try it, say, "Hey, I love this," or "Oh, it was okay, but I don't need any more right now," or "I didn't like it," in which case you just don't sign up again. And then maybe later in the year you think, "Oh, I want some more practice again." You can come by and sign up for another 3 months. And those choice points will always be available to you on the website. We'll just do the first round will be from scratch because we won't have had this yet, and that will come at the end of February. And then all of this, the whole community opens up on April 1st, including the start of the programs.
So you're only part of the community when you sign up and re-sign up.
Yes. So,
Okay.
and you can, so there's also a free level of the membership. So we're doing because we're moving to a different model, we're consolidating everything on Circle. So one of the things that was really a gift to us last year is that Circle started providing the capacity to build websites. Right now, we still have our website still on another platform, but we don't really need it anymore because we've moved all the other features to Circle, and now we can move everything to Circle and close down our Kajabi account. And so you'll have to sort of log in anew anyways because we're now on a different platform. But you can choose to say, "Hey, I'm really busy right now. There's some things happening in my life. I don't want to do very much, but I want to stay connected to the community. I want to come to some of the free events." Well, then you just sign up for the free membership. It doesn't cost you anything, and then you get access to a whole bunch of things. Or you say, "Hey, I'm kind of ready for some more professional development, and I want to sign up for more." And then you can become a core member, and then you can add on to that anything else that you would like.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions or thoughts for right now? I'll just take this down for a minute so I can see everybody.
David,
So
can
how
I
does-
just ask a question just to be clear based on our conversations previously? So
Yeah.
you were mentioning that the sign up for the community and the skills lab opens up in about 3 weeks at the end of February.
Yes.
But the skills lab nor the community, both of them will be available starting April 1st.
Yes. So nothing, we will have some like this, we'll have some bonus events just to kind of, like we'll have, because just to kind of stay connected across that month. But rather than create confusion, we're going to start everything at the same time on April
Right.
1st.
But there are sign up opportunities between end
All
of
along.
February to,
Yeah. So
yeah.
for those 4 or 5 weeks, you can sign up at any time you want.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, does the date on your 3 months start on April 1st or but when you sign up?
I laugh because Amy asked the same question. Yes, so your start date is April 1st. Yeah. No, we're not going to charge you for something you can't have. Yeah. Hmm. So how does this seem? Like what's coming up for you as you imagine this for yourself? Yeah, Ron.
I guess for me it depends on how it actually works. For instance, if I'm going to sign up to take narrative coaching
Yes.
in whatever form you're presenting it now, I don't know whether that means I have to be really self-initiatory and spend a lot of time in the lab, or whether there's going to be more teaching outside of the lab, like there
That's,
once was.
yeah. So it will be structured slightly differently just because we have the lab now, but you will get exactly what you would have gotten had you taken it this year.
Okay.
And content will have the same content videos, the same resources, the same everything. And then you can choose to be in the lab as little or as much as you want.
Okay, that makes sense. I
The
understand.
much being within reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was a little intimidated there to begin with.
No. And again, one of the things that we'll do as part of the first, like the orientation for the Narrative Coach program for new students is we'll just, they'll have a little whirlwind tour of the platform just to kind of get people. And I've asked Brian to create some, they've now, because they've now got enough big clients that they've now starting to really grow their team. So they've got a new customer success person. And so Brian just never had the time before, but one of her first tasks is to create more explainer videos and like do what I just did, but on in a really polished, coherent way, and yeah, and have that available for anybody that's using the platform.
I think that's a great idea. There's a product called Mural, and they have an incredible library of very short videos on everything and anything about how to effectively use the platform. So
Yeah.
more is better in that case. My overall impression is that this is kind of, I feel like a kid in a candy store, which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. And I will be like Alice in Wonderland and go down a hole and 6 hours later appear and have no idea where I am or how I got there.
Did you ever play Zork when you were younger, Jeff?
Well, I actually played something that was pre-Zork that
Okay.
was like that actually.
Anyways, Zork was a text-based game, but way back before video games. But
Yeah.
I remember I dragged along to a dinner some friend of my dad's from work, and I was only like 14 or something. I didn't really care what they were talking about. I was bored. And so they were, but the father their house had a computer. It was my first computer I ever touched, and and uh, and then had Zork, which was a text-based game. And I thought, oh, let's go try this out. Like 3 hours later, I was still playing the game. So I get this. So it's a really enticing platform. And to the question, I think it was from Lydia. Yeah. For me, I want to make the ability for people to practice scalable. It's too expensive for you and for me to give you lots of human feedback and mentoring, and most of us don't need that much, and most of us can't afford that much. And I've spoken at a lot of conferences on AI and coaching, and I'm involved in 3 AI-based startups because I find it really fascinating. A lot of it, mostly because of some of the big players in the games, frightens me, and so I'm trying to use it as a force of good, and it just makes things available to you that we wouldn't have otherwise. And it's again, my experience having been in coaching for 30 years is that most of us don't, unlike in most any other profession on the planet, we don't invest enough in practicing.
Hmm.
And we don't invest enough and strategically and methodically getting better at something. And so you look at, and so again, we won't have the capacity, and nor do we get paid the big bucks of a professional athlete. But I want to build a culture, which is what the next book's around, where we change our paradigm about how to develop coaches away from all this stuff now that's interesting but not that useful in the end, and develop really these micro skills, deeper understandings of what actually is, and so like, yeah, I won't go into examples, and so I feel like this is an extraordinary opportunity for all of us to get better at what we do and get
Hmm.
regular, specific feedback on things that we've chosen to be important to us. And so, like, if you've gone through the programs, some of the modules you just sailed right through because you already did a lot of that. Other modules were mind blowing. Oh my God, I've never done this, right? But you're all kind of doing the same thing in that module. So using our own ID work, integrated development work, the AI allows you to customize your learning journey to be at the level you want and at the time you want and around the topic you want. So you can create your own exact learning experience.
Yeah, you're kind of you're curating your own journey at the
Exactly.
pace that works for you in the areas where you need more refinement and less creation of damage to both yourself and your clients.
Yeah, and that's especially true, Jeff. If you've got a client coming up that you've historically found difficult, like maybe they're very different personality for you, you can just drop in here like right before the session and just practice a few things you've been working on, just to kind of get yourself warmed up. So, but Chico, I saw your hand up. You're on mute, or we're not hearing you either way. It's okay. Why don't you type your question in the chat box or your comment, whatever you'd like, and we'll see if anybody else has anything while we're waiting. No, I don't have that fear, Lydia. Not yet. Um, a newcomer to narrative coaching. Yeah, so I would just take the program, and then you have all the basics, and then you'll have a chance to work on some of the practices while you're in the program. That would be the best place to start. I think if you try to start here, you'll be overwhelmed. Right. So we're getting to the end of our time. Is there any final questions or thoughts before we close for today? Hmm. All right. Well, I'm hoping this will be helpful, and I can't wait for April to come so we can actually go play together on the platform. All right. Take care, and we'll see you again soon. All right.
Thank you, David. Sir.
Most
Bye.
welcome.
Thank you, David.
Thank
Take
you.
care.